Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my February wrap-up. I am so excited to be back in my car filming a wrap-up video. I stopped doing my wrap-up videos back in September when I decided I was going to focus heavily on doing secret TBR videos, and as you can probably tell if you have been subscribed to my channel since September, I've really been doing that, and I have had so much fun with it. But I have not been able to talk to you guys about a lot of the books that I've been reading because even though I love doing these secret TBR videos, sometimes I need to kind of take a break from them and just read for fun and read books that are not for a purpose. I feel like having to kind of like set a TBR and like dictate things ahead of time can get kind of boring if you're a mood reader like me. So I've been reading a lot of things that aren't for videos, and I haven't been able to share those books with you. And I want to do that. I want to be able to share these books with you guys, especially since a lot of the times they end up being my favorite books. So I decided to bring back my wrap-ups to be able to share those books with you. I ended up reading 33 books this month, and it's only like there's not 33 days in this month, so it's been a time, and I'm not going to talk about all of the books in depth in this video because that would be just so long. So what I kind of envision these wrap-ups being from here on out is me talking about the books that I have read and not previously talked to you about in depth. I'm going to talk to you about those books first, and then for the latter half of the video I'm going to do kind of like a brief wrap-up of the other books and tell you like what videos to go and watch if you want to hear my in-depth thoughts about things. And that way it can be just a very well-rounded, like here is what I did this month. I'm going to keep this really chatty and fun, hopefully, and you guys let me know what you think of this after you watch it. Love to get some feedback because I want to bring my wrap-ups back in some capacity, but I also don't want to bore you guys, especially with books that I've already talked about in depth in other videos. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the first three books that I read this month are Try, Take, and Trust by Ella Frank, and I have a really complicated relationship with this series. I objectively understand that the representation is really not that great, and that this is 100% wish fulfillment for straight white women, but I read these back in the day before I was really aware of some of the more problematic elements surrounding these books, and I remember really enjoying them, and I was just looking for something to kind of passively listen to while I work. That's a lot of the time what I like to do is listen to audiobooks, especially ones that don't require a lot of attention as I am doing kind of like more analytic work. So especially reading something that I'd already read before, I figured that would be good. And honestly, it's not that the books have improved in quality or that like I still think that they're amazing books or anything, but the audiobooks for these are really fucking phenomenal. Don't recommend because of the sort of problematic gay for you shit that happens in this series, but I liked passively listening to them. I liked the audiobook narrator. He does a really good job at doing very distinct voices for each of our protagonists and being very animated. I love when an audiobook narrator is more than just like kind of like monotone throughout the entire reading of the book. He, especially during the steamy scenes, gets like very animated and does a great job. It's like, I enjoyed my listening experience immensely, and it was nice being back with characters that I really enjoyed the first time around, but I definitely see the problematic elements with this book and the series, and it makes me sad. Like, I would love to read more male-male romances that are written own voices. I mean, I definitely do read some of those stories, especially like TJ Klune, Cade McCall, but I want to be better about like finding and seeking out more male-male romances written by actual men. So kind of soapboxy, but this was fine. I liked the audiobook listening experience. It was super pleasant, but I don't recommend these books. So I would say they're like 3-star, 4-star if you want. Like, I honestly don't even know how I feel about these. Next book that I read this month was The Darkest Star by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I like to just say JLA because it's easier. So that's what we're gonna do. But okay, this book, I gave this book 3 stars, and I guess I stand by that, but also I do not want to bone an alien, and unfortunately I think you kind of have to want to bone an alien to be into this JLA book. So this starts out very City of Bones style, with our main character Evie being dragged to a club that has not just humans but like some freaky aliens. She ends up kind of running into this guy named Luke, and she finds out he's not really who she thinks he is, or like he's not human, whatever. She wants to find out more secrets about him, and by befriending Luke she ends up finding out more about her own past and some secrets that her mom has been keeping from her about her heritage. So it's about aliens. I mean, like, Luke is an alien. Like, aliens have invaded the society essentially. Like I said from the beginning, this was not a bad read, but it definitely wasn't a favorite of mine from JLA. I really enjoyed the Half-Blood series when I read it back in the day. I think that's probably more new adult because I think she published those by herself. She self-published instead of being traditionally published. I know this was traditionally published. I think she does better in a new adult setting. I think where JLA really thrives is by making those romantic relationships and having a very angsty, like, will they, won't they sort of situation going on, which was definitely present in Half-Blood. I mean, I know it's like a blatant ripoff of Vampire Academy, but like, it was a fun read, right? This was not that fun because the sexual tension between Luke and Evie was just kind of like whatever. Like, I didn't really give a shit if they got together, and I also just don't like aliens. Like, there's nothing sexy to me about aliens, so I was just sort of like, meh. Not a bad book, especially if you like plot, because I think the plot was actually pretty strong here. I think the world building was super interesting. I think if you have read the Lux series by JLA, you'll probably like this book, but for me, it was just kind of whatever. I'll probably be unhauling this book. I own it. I think it's like a signed copy. Maybe I'll like do a giveaway or something, but this was just whatever. Like, I was kind of like, I'm not upset that I read it, but I also, like, kind of wasted my time. So the next book that I read this month, I think was easily my favorite romance that I read all month. And it felt so good because I picked this one up, I got an arc of it, and I just got to read it and soak it in and do it just for myself, and that just felt so good, and I need to do more of that. I love my secret TBRs, but I need to do more me time with books. Anyway, I read Cancer Ships Aquarius by Anita Sunday, and I fucking adored this, every second of it. This is the 5th, and I believe last installment in the Signs of Love series by Anita Sunday. I have read the previous 4 books, although they are standalone, so if one of the books interests you but none of the other ones do, you can definitely read them standalone. Anyway, the story follows Reed, and he's kind of down on his luck. He has been dumped by his last 5 girlfriends, and this most recent time, he was dumped by a girl that he lived with, so he is trying to scramble to find a new place to live, and in doing so, he ends up becoming the nanny for a girl named Joanna, and living in a yacht with Joanna and her father Sullivan, and obviously Reed and Sullivan kind of form a romantic relationship. I don't know how to do these books justice, but I think if you enjoy fan fiction and you enjoy like heavy tropes, I think you're really gonna like these books, especially this one. This one really had that forced proximity trope, and it also had like a fun miscommunication trope, if that makes sense, like an importance of being earnest, sort of like miscommunication but in a fun way, not a miscommunication, why the fuck don't you guys work this shit out sort of way. I just, like, it was so fucking fun, and I think Anita Sunday really thrives at making you understand why 2 people should be together. I think no matter how good a romance is, if you are not able to make me understand why 2 people work really well together, you're kind of failing. And I think a lot of romance authors aren't very good at that. We understand, like, they're attracted to each other, but how is this relationship going to work long term? Like, do they complement each other well? And in every Anita Sunday book I've ever read, the characters really complement each other and, like, fill in the gaps that the other person's lacking. In this one, oh my god, it was just so cute. A lot of fun moments. These are smutty to an extent. I mean they are smutty, but there's not gratuitous smut, there's not like tons of sex scenes, and the relationships are usually really lighthearted and fun. So if you're looking for just like a rom-com trope-filled male romance series, god, I could not recommend these more. I think this is probably like my second favorite after the first book, Leo Loves Aries. I don't know, that was like a Friends to Lovers. This is like a slow burn. Grumpy and Sunshine, that's what it is. Wow, I'm really bad with tropes, but this is got the grumpy versus sunshine kind of dynamic. Ooh, so good. Highly recommend this book. Oh, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read this month was The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. I'm disappointed. I read the first book in this series for my I Read 5 mass market paperback romances video, and I really hated the first book because there was a rape scene that was kind of excused and not talked about as if it were actually rape. I understand it's a historical romance, but like, you get to kind of effectively rewrite history as an author, and the fact that you would include that as something that's okay was really fucked up in my opinion. While this book didn't have any sort of like problematic elements, I just felt the story was a little bit uninspired and lacking, and it reminded me a lot of a book that I really enjoyed and had read previously in the month. So reading an almost identical plot with characters that I didn't give a shit about was not that fun. So anyway, this book is about a guy named Anthony who is a viscount and a rake. He is the head of the family after his father died at like the age of 34 or something, like super young. And Anthony has this fear that he is going to die young, so he wants to marry a woman to have an heir, but he doesn't want to fall in love because he knows how heartbreaking that can be. He saw what his mother went through after his father died. He ends up kind of pining for this girl because he's like, she is super beautiful and she's super boring and I'm never gonna fall in love with her. But the girl's older sister, who's named Kate, is like, yo, I can tell you aren't gonna be a good match with my sister. I wish you would just fuck off. And he's like, no, I'm determined to marry this girl, whatever. And so Kate and Anthony end up in this sort of like enemies situation. She's like, fuck off, like don't mess with my sister. And he's like, I want her. And then obviously they end up kind of falling in love. And it was whatever. It was kind of uninspired in my opinion. I didn't feel like this was a super unique plot. This is definitely something that I've read before in historical romance. And both of the characters were just irritating. Like I just didn't care. And I think there are much more interesting and romantic and likable characters in some of the other historical romance series I'm reading. I don't think if you want a romance series that has family dynamics and like each book is about a different like couple from the same, not from the same family, you know what I mean, but like siblings, and they each get their own happily ever after. There's a lot of good ones out there. Eloisa James has a great series, The Lindows, I think. Tessa Dare, while the people aren't related, also like it's, you know, you get to know each couple. There's a lot of good shit out there, and I think just because this was one of the first to really do this kind of thing and to like bring like a fresh voice to the historical romance scene doesn't mean it's the best, and I definitely don't recommend this book. I didn't enjoy it, and I won't be continuing on with the series. I will, however, be watching the Netflix series when it comes out because it's being done by Shondaland, but the series, like the book series, just skip it. Like don't bother. And then the last book that I read that I haven't haven't talked to you guys about, was Angry God by LJ Shen. And in a shocking turn of events, I actually really fucking liked this book. I had done like a pre-review on Goodreads and said, I'm not gonna read this book. All of the ARC reviews that I had read had been pretty scathing, and I have not liked 4 out of 5 of LJ Shen's last releases. Like, I really don't think she's been doing a good job. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I just have not been liking the shit she's been putting out. It's at once very formulaic and also really fucking chaotic. Her books have no plot. It's like she sat down and just started writing and didn't realize that like you could maybe put an outline together before you start writing for a lot of her books recently, and I just do not fuck with that. I'm realizing now, since I read so much romance, like what is good and what is bad, and like what chaotic shit can work and what can't, and a lot of LJ Shen shit just doesn't work. Anyway, off my soapbox about that, let's talk about why I actually liked this book. Biggest fucking reason is that there was a plot. It seemed like she actually might have outlined this book. There was not a lot of superfluous side characters who don't really add anything except for chaos to the story, which was really awesome. And I actually really liked the way that trauma was handled in this book, which is shocking because the last book had trauma. Our male protagonist in the last book that I read by her was assaulted, and that was handled horribly. In this book, the trauma that our hero faces really colors the rest of the book, and it worked very well. I think it made a lot of sense, and I think him as a character made a lot of sense. Whether or not you like him, I get it, but I thought this book worked, and I thought that the steamy scenes were really fucking hot. So the story itself is about Vaughn and Lenora, and it's an enemies to lovers situation because Lenora walks in on Vaughn at a moment where he is very vulnerable, and he is very, very, very embarrassed about the situation. Lenora doesn't really think anything of it, like she doesn't think it's a bad situation, but Vaughn is very personally ashamed of what has happened, and he decides to bully Lenora as a result. He doesn't want her to tell anybody what she saw, and he's just ashamed of what happened, so he's kind of lashing out as a result, and he's not told anybody about what has happened, etc. I'm sure you guys can assume, but he has been through, you know, some trauma. The trauma is what she walked in on. She just didn't realize what she was saying. I mean, it was a typical bully romance, like enemies to lovers situation, read very similarly to Vicious. This definitely is not the most original story out there, but I really thought that the way the plot was handled was good. And honestly, maybe I'm just so scarred from her last books that I'm like able to forgive them for something somewhat decent, but I liked this. If you want my more in-depth and articulate thoughts, I'm gonna leave a link to my Goodreads review down in the description below, but this definitely has me intrigued for LJ Shen's next releases, and I'm hoping that she stays on this upward trend of like getting back on a let's outline grind. I don't know what I'm saying, but yes, this was fun. I gave this book 4 stars. And now if you're really compelled to listen to the rest of me just talking about the videos that I've done this month, feel free to stay. If not, you can leave. If you want to kind of hear about the other things that I've read this month, and or you want links to those videos where I talked about those books, I'm gonna let you know right now. So the first 2 books that I read this month were Misconduct and Falling Away by Penelope Douglas. I read these for my shocking Guide to Penelope Douglas video. I had never read Misconduct before, and I ended up actually kind of enjoying it. I was reading it at the right time, if that makes sense. I only ended up giving the book 3 stars, but I thought it was still a fun read. Falling Away I had read before, and also I ended up liking the second time around. Regardless, I had a really fun time filming that video, getting to talk about one of my favorite authors for an hour, and knowing that I have read all of an author's like bibliography was, I don't know, just felt good. Felt good to film. So if you guys haven't watched that video, or you have any interest in a really kick-ass like dark bully romance author, I'm gonna leave links in the description down below for all of the videos that I'm talking about, but I liked filming that one. It was fun. The next 2 books I read were Dark Lover and Lover Eternal by J.R. Ward, which I read for my Pain in the Neck podcast that I do with Garen from Goblet of Fiction, and I had such a fun time with both of these books. I absolutely love the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, and if you want to hear me talk about either of those books, go ahead and watch the podcast episodes we have. Would highly recommend you guys pick these books up. I know one of our lovely friends, Hawk, got into them, and they are like 10 books deep into the series now because they decided to pick them up for the podcast, so I love how this is bringing people together. The next book I read was Praying for Rain by B.B. Easton, which I did for my taste test for Jess from Peace Love Books. I didn't love this book, but I really loved this video. It was really fun to film. I love all of the taste tests that I do. Getting to know people's tastes in the bookish community is just so fun, and it brings us all closer together, right? Like, I feel really close to people when I'm reading their favorites, so this was just a really fun video, and I know not as many people have watched this video compared to some of the others that I've put out this month. I think this video maybe like slipped under people's radar, so I'm gonna leave, again, a link down in the description. Definitely go check that one out. I love Jess, and also go check out Jess's channel. I'll also leave a link to her channel down in the description. The next video, I loved the end result, but I did not like filming or reading for this video, and shockingly I'm doing another video really fucking similar to it because I'm an idiot. I read Wait For You by Jennifer L. Armentrout, Once Burned by Janine Frost, Real by Katie Evans, Edenbrook by Julianne Donaldson, A Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught, Can't Think Straight by Shamim Sarif, Seduction and Snacks by Tara Sivek, for my 27 Hot and Bothered BuzzFeed video. I love the way this turned out. I know a lot of you guys have subscribed to me because I did that video, and it was a time to film. I spent an entire day filming that video. I made my fiance leave the house so that I could have the house to myself and just like really buckle down and get that shit done, and it was a lot, and it was really, really rewarding. Obviously, like, I didn't do the video for the views, but I definitely knew that people would hopefully enjoy this video, and to watch it come into fruition and watch watch it turn out exactly the way I wanted was so fucking rewarding as a creator. It felt so good. So thank you to everyone who watched and subscribed because of that video. I put so much blood and sweat and tears into that, so it was just nice to see it pay off. So if you want to hear me talk about some really fucking terrible romances and a couple of good ones, go check out that video. Or if you want to like hear me talk about any of the books that I just mentioned, go check out that video. The next book that I read this month was Pennies by Pepper Winters. I read this book for my monthly book club that I do on my channel. I usually collab with some of my favorite booktubers and we read smutty romances and it's a really good time. This month I read this book with Daria from Full of Lit and Kat from Paperback Dreams, some of my best friends here on YouTube, and it was just a really good time. That was one of the best live shows I think I've ever done, and it was really fun to watch it back. So if you haven't watched that, I would definitely recommend going check it out. And this book was like a hot fucking mess, so if you want to hear us bitch about a book for a while, go check that out. The next 5 books I read for the video that I just posted, and it was the me reading your underrated faves video. I read A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy, Heroine by Mindy McGinnis, The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, and The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. This was a really weird video. This was probably the strangest video that I filmed, not like in terms of content, but my like mindset was so weird. I think I went into this thinking that all of these books would be awesome, and they weren't. And I think that shows when you watch it. But I found 2 new favorites from it, The Merciful Crow and The Scorpio Races. So if you want to hear me talk more in depth about any of those books, link in the description, like I said. How many times can I say it? I don't know. And then lastly, perhaps the most exciting thing are the, oh god, I don't even know how many books, 7, 8 books that I read for a video that I have not yet filmed. And it is going to be very similar to my 27 Hot and Bothered video, but it's going to be for thrillers. And I fucking thrilled about it. I have just really gotten in a thriller mood lately. I have been wanting to read thrillers. I have been wanting to figure out what I like about this genre. Like, I know that I like thrillers, but it's like, what do I like within the genre? So I read Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, Here and Gone by Haylyn Beck, The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter, Ink and Bone by Lisa Unger, The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor, and My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. I am not done with my reading for this video yet, but that video will be posted next Sunday. So if you want to hear me talk about a fuckload of thrillers, stay tuned. I'm literally like so excited about this video. I had no intention to do a video even remotely similar in length or in content to my 27 Hot and Bothered video. I just have been reading a lot of fucking thrillers, and so I figured, what the hell, let's do it. I'm loving it, guys. Like, I'm just, thrillers are fun. That's it. That was my month in books. I've read 33 books this month. I am 10% into another book, The Guy in the Middle by Kate Stewart, which is the last book in the Underdogs series, I think. And I'm having such a good time. I didn't want to rush it. I could have finished it easily today, but I just want to savor this book since it's, I think, the last in the series. And I just love Kate Stewart, so I've only read 33, but I've read 33 books this month, and I'm honestly not very good at talking about books anymore, it seems like. This has been very fucking inarticulate. If you guys watch this whole thing, you're brave, and I love you so much, and thank you for supporting my channel. Also, next month is gonna be a fucking hoot. I have so much stuff coming. I'm gonna be participating in Backlist Readathon. I'm going to be doing some really crazy shit like I always do, so I'm really excited for March. January and February were really rough on me mentally. I was reading a lot, but not necessarily having a very good time. Not because of the books that I was choosing, but just like my seasonal depression has not been great, and I'm just really excited for March because I think I'm gonna go full fucking like study drug mode. I was gonna say crackhead, but I don't think that's like a PC term. So we're gonna say full study drug mode in March. Like the time change is coming next Sunday, and then it's gonna be bright all the time. And I'm just gonna be putting out so much shit. I'm just so excited. This is very manic, so I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I talk so fast, but it's also really hot in my car right now. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this. Let me know any suggestions on like how I could better serve you with my wrap-ups. I don't know. Like if you hated this, I guess let me know. I love you guys so much. I'm really glad I got to share those books that I have not previously talked to you guys about in the beginning of this video, but stay tuned. March is gonna be really fun. I love you guys so much, and until next time.